and your goals. And I wanted to introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, I am Jen Lafine. I am a personal coach for high achieving women just like you. I'm a certified professional coach and a master teacher. And my tidbit this week is I am also a zinnia flower fanatic, and my zinnias are in bloom right now, and they are absolutely gorgeous. I think I've grown them in my garden every year for, I think I counted the last 23 years. So they're kind of like, they're like my thing, I think. So you are invited to leave your camera on or off. It's completely up to you, but your microphone should be muted. If you have any questions throughout the presentation today, and we will be finished by 12:30 Central, so you can get back to lunch and get back to your day. But if you have any questions, any thoughts, any aha moments, I would love it if you would put them in the chat. And then at the end, we should have a few minutes left to answer any questions that you have. So I always like to begin with talking about where we are going today. And we're going to talk about what is autopilot, because it has a lot of different meanings and a lot of different definitions. But I want to make sure that we're clear on what I'm talking about when I say autopilot and what you're understanding it to be. We're going to talk a little bit about why and when living on autopilot is a good thing, how our brain loves autopilot, signs that you may be stuck on autopilot, and how to know when you're ready to begin living with intention and embracing mindfulness and even a little discomfort when you go about doing this work. And so, like I told you, towards the end, we will have time for questions. So let's get started. And just like I do every week, I would like for you to think of one big result you would like to create in your life. What is one big goal you have or something you would like to achieve in your lifetime? So take a minute and please think about that. Those of you who have been here a couple times know that this is always a question that I ask, because I'd like for you to allow that to be an anchor for you as you go through. So if you would think about one big result, if you're feeling extra brave, I'd love it if you throw it in the chat, because you may inspire someone else. And do not listen to your brain when it says, oh, that's not a big result. That's just a little result. Any and all results count for today, okay? So feel free to throw yours in the chat so we can all cheer you on. Now, regarding the big result you'd like to create, are you currently saying yes or no or not yet to it? And then I'd like for you to take a second, and I'd like for you to think about why you are making that choice right now, because that is something we're going to talk about today. See if you can get a reason. Why are you saying yes? Why are you saying no? Why are you saying not yet? All right, and as we do every week, I want to review with you how our human primal brain likes to mess with us when we are leaving our comfort zones and going out to do new things. The primal brain regulates our emotions. It is the fear, stress, confusion, joy, comfort, all of those things come from our primal brain. And if you remember, the primal brain is the least evolved part of our brain, and it still thinks that we're all living in caves. Hence, it uses emotions and thoughts to try to keep you safe, because back in the caveman days, staying safe was the difference between life and death. So the primal brain is all about safety, it's all about survival, and it's all about saving energy. The primal brain loves familiarity and certainty, which is why it wants you to stay in your comfort cave. So I have named the comfort zone, I call it the comfort cave, to remind us that it's something from a really, really long time ago. We don't have to live there, but the primal brain loves it, because it knows that as long as we are in our comfort zone, that we are safe and alive, and that we will be conserving our energy. And again, the primal brain uses thoughts and emotions to keep the status quo. So what am I talking about when I say autopilot? And so this definition is my definition, and it is being unaware of the actions you're taking or not taking that lead to a result you either want or don't want. So that's kind of a vague definition, but the key here is being unaware. They are actions and thoughts that you are unaware of that are giving you some kind of result. So why do we get ourselves stuck on autopilot, doing those things or not doing things that are getting us places we don't want to be? Okay. And again, the primal brain comes into play here. We take up long-term residency in our comfort cave because of the primal brain. Anytime we try to leave, it wants to suck us back in and keep us there because it's safe, it's familiar, and it doesn't take any energy to be there. Everything is just status quo. It is all autopilot, right? But if you stay in your comfort zone and you always do what you've always done, you're only going to get what you've always gotten. So when you're thinking about that big result you'd like to create in your life, something has got to change for it to happen. You're going to have to remove yourself, disengage autopilot, and start driving your car. Okay. So how do you know if you are on autopilot? Especially in regards to your goals and maybe not achieving them. First, you have a predictable daily routine. Okay, you go from the beginning of the day to the end of the day and you're like, whoa, what happened today? I have a sentence of the day journal that I write in every morning, where I write like a sentence from the day before, just something I want to remember. And when I have days or mornings, when I think back to the day before and try to remember something that happened and nothing comes to me, that tells me I was living that day on autopilot. I did not stop to look around and to notice life around me. Well, you're also on autopilot if you have lots of busyness going on in your day and you're justifying to yourself that you're busy. Okay. You also make a lot of automatic decisions, saying yes to things or no to things without truly thinking about them and whether or not they are serving your goals. I just put a post up on Instagram that talked about the word should. And I cannot tell you how many times my coaching clients use the word should when they're talking about things that they're doing. I should do this, I should do this, I shouldn't do that. And the only thing that should is helpful for is making you feel bad. And when you feel bad, you are not acting out of a place of integrity. So if you can at all, remove that word should from your vocabulary and see how things change. You don't have to make automatic decisions based on the word should, based on what you think you should be doing, you should be feeling, you should be thinking. You are an adult woman. You get to decide, okay? Another way you know that you're on autopilot is, again, where did the time go? Like, there's a difference between being in the zone when you're working on something, especially when you're working on a creative project, or maybe sometimes if you're reading, you just forget all sense of time. That is not the where did the time go that I'm talking about. I'm talking about when you look back, like when I look back on yesterday and can't find anything that stands out, that's a sign to me that I'm on autopilot. Two other signs you're on autopilot is you are not achieving the results you want. And in your body, you may feel a numbness or a yearning for something more, a yearning for a change. A lot of times when we cannot come up with the thoughts, we have much better access to our feelings. So if you're feeling like that achiness, like, oh, I know something, like something's happening, that's a clue that maybe you've been stuck on autopilot a little bit too long and your big goals are calling to you and asking you to move forward. It's important to know the big result you want requires you to take conscious action. You must declare to yourself that you are saying yes to it. Okay, it doesn't just assume. You must ask yourself, what is holding you back from saying yes to creating your big result. This is something we talked about at the beginning when I asked you to think about your big result. Have you said yes to it? No, or not yet? If you did not say yes, think, what is holding you back from creating that result? I'm going to guess, if it was me, I would say, I'm afraid to leave my comfort zone. I would probably have many of those self-doubt, things that we talked about last week coming into play, imposter syndrome, perfectionism, comparison, all of those things, which, by the way, if you didn't catch last week's recording, in the follow-up email, there will be a link to all the past recordings. So be sure to watch that because that's a really good one. So what is holding you back from saying yes? Is it your comfort zone? I want you to know that even if you're saying no to your big goal or your dream right now, you are saying yes to something else. You are always saying yes to something, even when you're on autopilot. It's just that when you're on autopilot, you have kind of given up your power to the mindless doing that you're experiencing. And it's also important to remember that nothing changes until you consciously decide to say yes to your goal. I was working with my business coach, and actually it's kind of a funny story because we were talking about these lunch and learn workshops. And she's been trying to get me to do the lunch and learn workshops for a while now. And I kept saying like, oh, I'm not ready. Oh, I don't know enough. Oh, this, oh, that, oh, that. Finally, she said to me, when are you just going to do it? And I said, I'm going to do it next week. I made the decision. I made a conscious yes to doing these workshops. And it is the best yes that I have said in a long time because I love doing these workshops for you guys. So while you're saying yes, you need to say yes to your goal, but you will also need to start saying no to other things that you may currently be saying yes to. These could be things such as certain activities like social media and doom scrolling. Okay. How much time do you spend on social media? To me, like it was so scary when my iPhone started showing me my usage of like where I'm spending my time and like on social networking and shopping and education and like what, phone time. That was kind of scary because I realized like, man, I'm spending a lot of time on my phone and I don't even realize it. It's just autopilot. When I'm bored, I reach and I pick up my phone and I'm like, oh, I'll just start scrolling and see what happens. Next thing you know, it's 45 minutes later. 45 minutes I'm never going to get back. You also need to start saying no to buffering activities. And what a buffering activity is it is an activity that brings you pleasure, that removes you from discomfort. So for instance, when you are bored and you have the discomfort of being bored, you may go into the kitchen and get yourself a snack, even if you're not hungry. Okay. You may pick up your phone and start scrolling. That is also buffering. You may sit down and you're like, I'm just going to watch one episode of HGTV. And then before you know it, you've like now spent 4 hours sitting on the television, sitting in the living room watching TV. That's all buffering. It's removing yourself from discomfort to something that brings you pleasure, but that pleasurable thing is not beneficial to you. Okay. Other time wasters like Netflix binging, Amazon scrolling. That was not from my own personal experience, the Amazon scrolling, but I may have had that one and maybe it was. Not scheduling time on your calendar is an activity. Not making conscious time to bring that dream to life. And then another one is making excuses. My favorite one is I don't have time. And if you don't have time to bring your dream to life, but you do have time to spend 4 hours sitting on the sofa watching TV, you have to determine like your priorities, right? The other things to start saying no to have to do with your mindset, letting yourself off the hook, not feeling worthy, not being patient, because things do take time. And a lot of times When we take ourselves out of our comfort zone to try to do something big, we expect the result to happen overnight, and it doesn't, right? And then we think, oh, something's gone wrong. Also, negative self-talk. And what I mean by that is that voice in your head that likes to bully you. That voice in your head that tells you, oh, you're never going to finish this. Maybe you should go pick up your phone right now and distract yourself. Okay. Also, mindset, perfectionism, all of those self-doubt activities are things you're going to have to start saying no to. When those things come up, when those thoughts come up, you're just going to have to say, I don't talk to myself that way anymore. Okay. Because all of these things are brought to you by your primal brain, which wants you to stay in your comfort zone. Okay. I want you to be aware, however, that once you start doing this, once you decide to leave your comfort zone, oh, wonderful. Oh, here we go. Once you decide to leave your comfort zone, your primal brain is not going to like that you're taking action. And so it's going to start its shenanigans. It's going to really amp up the negative self-talk, the negative thoughts about your ability to do your big thing that you're trying to bring to life. You may experience something called the roller coaster effect, is where you start taking massive action, you're starting to experience some success, and then all of a sudden, whoosh, it gets hard. And that's your primal brain. It's like saying to you, see, I told you this was hard. I told you you couldn't do this. And you start believing it instead of saying, nope, I'm just going to keep moving forward, even though it's hard. Okay. It also may start giving you some feelings of frustration. And again, those are those vibrations in your body that are going to come up. And that at that time, you may talk yourself into quitting. You may talk yourself into going into the kitchen and getting a bag of Doritos. That's the time where your primal brain, again, is trying to distract you from what you're doing. You also may feel discomfort. And again, discomfort is nothing more than a feeling in your body. Now, there's two different kinds of discomfort. The kind of discomfort when you are not taking action on what you want to do, and you're like, ugh. There's that kind of discomfort. And then there's the discomfort that comes from taking action and doing something new. That kind of discomfort I call productive discomfort. And I have found that to get rid of productive discomfort, you just need to keep moving ahead. And in about 90 seconds, that feeling of discomfort is going to go away. 90 seconds, that's it. That's all it takes. So just start, push through the pain, push through the discomfort, and just keep going. And that discomfort will go away because you're going to show yourself that you are doing this thing, that you're no longer living on autopilot. You're making a conscious choice to do something. One thought you may experience when you're going through all of these things is something has gone wrong here. And I want you to be listening. Remember, we've talked about being a thought watcher. Be listening for that thought to rise up in your head. Something has gone wrong here. You're doing it wrong. You're not ready. So-and-so is doing it better. Okay. That is your primal brain. And we know the primal brain is just trying to get you right back to your comfort zone, so you can ignore it and keep moving ahead. Now, how do you get yourself off autopilot? Well, there's a couple different ways. One is really trying to sharpen up your awareness tool. And what that is just training your brain to be aware. And one of the ways that I like to do that is when I go for a walk, I say to myself, I'm going to notice something pink. And as I'm walking along, I'm looking for something pink. Now I'm going to look for something purple. And then I walk along until I find something purple, and then I pick a different color. It just is a way to start building your observational skills, to be aware that when you're feeling that, when that discomfort comes up in your body, you are aware of it, and you don't buffer, you don't get discouraged, you don't stop. Okay. Another way to release autopilot is to become a thought watcher and realize when you are on autopilot. Now, there are some good times to be on autopilot. We know that we probably have No one needs to give us a map or directions on how to get to work every day, because we can do that on autopilot. We know the route by heart. We have a routine when we get up in the morning. We just go on autopilot. We don't have to think about it. Those kinds of things are actually good, because the brain can only handle so much sensory input. If it had to be aware of every single thing, it would take way too much energy. So just training your brain to be aware of the things that you want it to be aware of, observing your thoughts when they come up, that's all an important part of releasing autopilot out of your life. Mindfulness is another way. Practicing being in the moment, noticing what's going on around you, seeing if you can find something you never noticed before. Like, that's an activity I like to do at the grocery store when I'm standing in line, is I try to notice something that I've never seen before. And that's another way that you're training your brain. Meditation is also really good for that. I like to recommend journaling as a way to release autopilot. Journaling is fantastic for uncovering your deeper thoughts and for helping you see where you have been choosing to say no to the things you want and yes to the things that you don't want. Okay. Also, it's important that you remember your why. And when you are setting your big goal or your big result you want to create, we talk about your why. Why is this important to you? What is your purpose? What's going to change for you when you've achieved this goal? So remembering your why is a great driver to keep yourself focused and off of autopilot. The other thing I want to tell you is it's also important to give yourself grace, because this is new work for you. So things are going to go wrong. You're going to mess up. You're going to slip back into autopilot. It happens to everyone. It's important that you don't use that against yourself when that happens, that you give yourself the grace and know that it is okay not to be perfect. Okay, that happens to everyone. And finally, releasing autopilot is deciding to do the work. Making that declaration, just like I did to my coach about doing the lunch and learn workshops. So I have a resource for you this week that I will be sending out in my follow-up email again. And it's going to take you through this pattern of what we talked about. But this is how I make sure that I'm shutting down autopilot. First of all, I get very clear and specific on what I want, what that big goal is, which, by the way, that is the topic of next week's Lunch and Learn, is figuring out what we want and giving ourselves permission to dream big. After I have gotten very clear and specific on what I want, I list my whys. Okay, why is that important to me? If you don't know your whys, you're way more likely to give up on yourself. Then it's important that you actually say yes to your goal and you commit. And then you will decide what you're going to start saying no to and what you're going to start saying yes to. And the reason that I want you to do this in writing is because it really helps it go deeper into your brain. And it's more than just thoughts are like fleeting, they will be gone. But if you write it down, there's a lot of research about the benefits of writing by hand and writing things down and what a big difference it makes. Then I'm going to ask you, the page will ask you, what action are you going to take to start doing this? Now, remember, you don't have to do everything on the first day. You can start, taking action, and then maybe you'll fill more of that in later. The important thing next is you're going to ignore your primal brain when it starts whining, and you're going to give yourself grace and patience. And that will be in the resource that I'm going to share with you after our session today. So let's see, we have some things in the chat. Let me look. Does anybody have a question? Oh, excellent. Be happy, weight loss. These are goals. Be part of my new community in your city. Yes, it was a wake-up call, wasn't it, Laura? Better done than perfect. Absolutely. I love that, Joanna.
Yeah, that's I think that's Sheryl Sandberg, is it?
Mm-hmm.
It comes up all the time. And I had a comment. I went to a conference a couple of years ago, and one of the keynote speakers, her title was manifestation to manifest action. And basically it was about, it's all very well making plans and dreaming about things, but you've got to have a plan to put it into action.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. You have to like commit, and I think that's the problem that so many people have with New Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
Because you set a resolution, like, it's the last week of December. I better get a resolution going. And you think of something, I'm going to lose 20 pounds, right? And maybe the first, you start on that roller coaster, you're very motivated, right? And you're watching what you eat, and you're drinking your water, and you're walking your 10,000 steps a day. And then all of a sudden it becomes hard, and you get that downward slide, right? And that's when your primal brain is kicking in, like, oh, you know what? Cookie would sound good right now. Why don't you go to cookie? Right? And instead of saying like, I'm just going to get back at it, you give in. So I think it's not having that clarity that we really struggle with our New Year's resolutions. At least that is my personal experience. Mm-hmm. Any questions from anyone? No? Okay. Watch your email, because later this afternoon, I will be sending you the recording. I will be sending you the worksheet so that you have that. And if you need the link to the past recordings, it will be in that email too. Next week, I'm talking about permission to dream. We're going to be talking about those big goals and how to get really specific on those. I do have a favor to ask of you guys. I have two favors. As usual, when I send the email out, I always ask if you could hit reply and tell me what your biggest takeaway was from today, because that will help me. I'm starting to look at September workshops. I know one of them is going to be a journaling workshop, how to use journaling for self-discovery. But I would love to know if there's something you would like to know, or what your takeaway was from today, so that I can make sure that I take that into consideration. So that is first request. The second request is, I'm going to ask, who do you know who needs to be in the Zoom room with us? Who do you know that would benefit from learning the things that I'm teaching? This is a free workshop every Wednesday. You don't have to come every Wednesday. I will always send you the recording. So even if somebody can't attend, I would love to be able to send them the recording to help them. And if this work is something you would like to go in deeper on, remember, I do offer one-to-one coaching. I would love to get together with you in a conversation and just kind of talk about what's going on for you and see if it's something that I can help you with. All right. All right, everybody. It was so good to see you all today. Thank you so much for being here. And I hope to see you next week. Bye, everybody. Have a wonderful week.
Thank you.
Bye.